POV. You're studying German and you stumble upon something called the Modal Verben. Now, what is können, wollen, müssen, sollen? Is this even German? Or is it some sort of code? At one point of time, every one of you must have thought that way. And yes, even I did. So, these are modal verben. They seem confusing at first, but once you understand them, they'll make you sound as a pro. Hello everyone, I'm Tanmayi and in today's video, we are going to dive right into the world of modal verben. So we are going to cover these 7 types of modal verbs as well as some exercises and how to frame sentences, their structure, the question structure and more. So without any further ado, let's dive deep right into the video. So first up, we have our first modal verb which is möchten, which means would like to. I would like to eat a pizza. I would say ich möchte eine Pizza essen. The article for pizza is die, right? So ich möchte eine Pizza essen. And I could also say, let me think of another example. Sie möchte heute Abend Pizza essen. She would like to eat a pizza that evening or that night. Right now, I'm just giving a few examples to make you feel comfortable with the words. And further in this video, we'll also learn the conjugation as well as how we frame questions, right? So that would be helpful. Second up, we have sollen, which means shall or should. Here we are giving advice. You can call it obligation also, but yeah. For example, du sollst mehr Wasser trinken. You should drink a lot of water. Here I am advising you. Let's say, soll seine Hausaufgaben machen. He should do his homework. Next up we have müssen, which is compulsion. You must do this, you must do that. Here I have given the example, du musst dein Hausaufgaben machen. The same example, you must do your homework. I must go to work every day. I would say, ich muss jeden Tag zur Arbeit gehen. Next, we have können, expressing your ability to do something. Yeah, sie kann gut singen. She can sing very well. Ich kann gut schwimmen. I can swim well, etc. etc. You know, one thing, it's not just sentences you can make, you can also frame questions like, kannst du mir helfen? Can you help me? Can you help me? Kannst du mir helfen? Next, dürfen, which is asking for permission. Here, darf ich hier sitzen? May I sit here? Sitzen is the verb which means to sit. May I sit here? And next we have mögen, which means to like. Basically, it's like a general preference you have towards something. Ich mag Musik. Ich mag Katzen. Ich mag Schokolade sehr. I really like chocolate. And here also we can also frame questions. Magst du Musik? Do you like music? Next up we have wollen, which is wish with a strong intention. So here I have written, ich will nach Deutschland reisen. Reisen is travel. I will travel to Germany near in the future. Something like that. Sie will Arzt werden. She wants to become a doctor. Ich will dieses Buch lesen. I want to read this book. So that was about all the 7 types of modal verben. Now let's jump to conjugation tables. Now you must already have been familiar with how the German verb conjugation works, right? Like the verbs haben, machen, spielen, lernen, lesen, schreiben, etc. etc. Quickly let us look at how we write that. Let me take example of habe. Ich habe. Don't mind my handwriting, please. Sie es hat, wir haben, ihr habt, sie haben. See, German verbs, we know that there are two types of verbs, regular and irregular. And in regular verbs, we follow pattern. Ish always ends with E. Du, st, t, haben, habt, haben. And we know that wir and zizi, they remain the same. In the infinitive form. What's the infinitive form? Haben is the main verb, right? It remains in the same form. Now, there's a slight variation in how modal verbs are conjugated. So for that, let us look at this table. You could take a screenshot if you want to, because this is very, very useful for you. Let me explain you ish. Okay. Können, dürfen, müssen, sollen, wollen, mögen, möchten. Ich kann, du kannst, sie es kann, wir können, ihr könnt, sie können. Ich darf, du darfst, sie es darf, wir dürfen, ihr dürft, sie dürfen. What is one similarity you can notice among the just ish form and cs form remain the same? This is really, really important. You have to conjugate both ish and cs form in the same manner. Kan and kan. Darf, darf. Mus, mus. Again, mus is when there's umlaut, right? You call it mus. But when there's no umlaut, it's just mus. Soll, will, mag, mögster. So that's the only difference. They both have the same conjugated form. And yeah, again, you know about wir. Wir and sie. We've seen this relation even here. Even here, haben and haben. So that's the only new thing you have to learn. Ish and RZS have the same conjugated form. Now coming to the most expected, the thing you were anticipating for. Here we come to the sentence structure. See, please don't worry. This is so simple. Let me simplify it more for you. The modal verb is conjugated while the main verb goes at the end of the sentence. You didn't understand, right? Let me give an example. Ich kann Deutsch sprechen. Now identify the two verbs. First things first, as soon as you look at a sentence, identify the verbs. Kann, fine. Sprechen, okay. In this sentence, müssen, arbeiten. Now which is the main verb? Sprechen is the main verb. And in this case, arbeiten is the main verb. And what about kann and müssen? What are these? You're right. These are the modal verb which we just learned. Now, what does this rule say? The modal verb is conjugated. What is conjugation? Now, when ish comes, I conjugate it to kann. When wir comes, it remains müssen. Whereas the last verb is not conjugated. Please remember this, the last one is not conjugated. Sprechen does not become Spreche. It does not become Spreche. It just remains Sprechen in its infinitive form. It remains in its infinitive form. It doesn't get conjugated. The same thing goes with arbeiten. It just remains. So can you spot the difference between these two sentences? Ich kann spreche Deutsch. Ich kann Deutsch sprechen. So this is related to what we just read. Sprechen. The main verb comes at the end of the sentence. Very important. The main verb comes at the end of the sentence. Whereas here it has come in between. As well as it's been conjugated. The main verb should not be conjugated. It remains in its infinitive form. Got it? That was all about the sentence structure. Now, coming to the question structure. This is really simple. Now in German, we have two types of questions. W-Fragen and that is WH questions and yes or no questions. We call it Ja oder Nein questions. First up we have, kannst du Deutsch sprechen? Can you speak German? So for this kind of questions, we only have two answers. I could either say yes or my answer would be no. So this is an example of ja oder nein Fragen. Modal verb at the first position. See, willst du, darf ich. In yes or no questions, we keep it at the first position. And as usual, what goes at the end? Sprechen, gehen, rauschen. What are these? The main verbs go at the end. The thumb rule remains the same. It goes at the end. Whereas this comes at the first position because it's a yes or no question. Willst du ins Kino gehen? Do you want to go to the cinema? Ja. Oder nein? Ja oder nein? Darf ich hier rauchen? May I smoke here? Yes, you may, or no, you may not. See, those are the only two possible answers which you could possibly give. So that comes under yes or no questions. Now the other type of questions is W-Fragen, right? Was kannst du machen? Again the thumb rule, machen, gehen, lernen comes at the end because those are the main verbs. Now, because it's a question, W-Fragen, because it has to be a WH question, was, wann, warum, wo, woher, all those WH questions, WH words come in the beginning. Wie. Was kannst du machen? What can you do? Now here there can be infinite number of answers. Ich kann singen, ich kann whatever. So you have multiple answers over here. And here the modal verb comes in the second position just after the WH word. Makes sense? I really hope this makes sense. Cool. Now we jump right into the exercises. I hope now you got a basic understanding of how modal verbs actually work. Now let's put your knowledge into test over here. These sentences are really simple. So please pay a little bit of attention and you must be able to crack it. First up, dash, du, Tee oder Kaffee. And the verb is möchten. Du. How do you conjugate möchten into du form? You're right. Möchtest du Tee oder Kaffee? Next. Would you like a tea or coffee? Was dash wir jetzt machen? What should we do right now? Jetzt is right now. Sollen. Wir. How do I conjugate? Wir. You're right. It remains in the infinitive form. Was sollen wir jetzt machen? Was dash kann ich für Sie tun? Oh my goodness. I myself have given the answer here. Ich. So when I conjugate it will become kann. So here, coming to the fourth question. Heute dash Maria und Ruby ins Kino gehen. And the modal verb which I have to use is wollen. Now here we're talking about two people. So I will write heute wollen Maria und Ruby ins Kino gehen. Next, we have Kinder dash Schokolade. And the modal verb is mögen. Now many of you might say Kinder mag Schokolade, which is actually wrong. Kinder mögen Schokolade. Here we are not specifically talking about S, Z or S, right? In general, Kinder in the sense children like chocolates. Ich dash nicht im Unterricht laut sprechen. Im Unterricht is classroom. Loud, sprechen, speak. Nicht. I am not allowed to talk loudly in class. Yeah, roughly that's the translation, right? So ich, now how will I conjugate dürfen? Ich darf nicht im Unterricht laut sprechen. Next, beim roten Light dash man halten und warten. And I have to use müssen. Okay, this might sound little tricky. Let's break it down word by word. Beim roten Light. Rot is the color, red. Light. Man in the sense one. Halten, which means to halt. Warten is to wait. When the traffic signal light is red, one must stop and wait. Exactly. So I have to use must. Muss. Am I right? I'll use muss. Next, Ich dash nach Berlin Urlaub machen. And wollen. And if I conjugate, I'll say ich will nach Berlin Urlaub machen. And the last two questions are going to be homework. Please do drop the answers in the comment section box below. And I would really love to see your answers. So those were the few exercises. And this brings us to the end of this video. In a nutshell, if I have to summarize this whole video in modal verbs, modify another verb and push it to the end in its infinitive form. That's exactly the sentence structure, right? Here. The subject, the conjugated modal verb, other words, and the infinitive verb at the end. This is really important. The more you practice in real life situations, the faster you will learn. So now, this topic has become a cakewalk for all of you. So if you